This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Hey there folks, and welcome you all to another vlog of mine. Firstly and foremostly, we do have a couple of things to talk about, but firstly and foremostly, I was going to do a vlog in the middle of the week to say a big thank you for getting to 600 subscribers, but crazy things have been happening ever since I put the Dragon's Dogma Let's Plays up. In my little world anyway, and the subs just kept on rolling in, and so I decided just to wait. And well, that's not true. I did start recording a vlog to say thank you, and I forgot I hadn't charged the camera, and halfway through me recording the vlog, it ran out of battery power and the whole thing was lost. So at that point, it was quite late at night. I thought I'll leave it till tomorrow, and by the time I got to tomorrow, they were still clocking up these subs. So I left it, and I thought I would do it this weekend as my little vlog for Fridays, as you know I like to do. But even since then, since midweek, we've now got nearly 650 subs, which I only put the first video of Dragon's Dogma up on Saturday. And so nearly just about a week. Obviously, it'll be a week tomorrow evening. And I think at that point I was on 550 something. So I think we've got nearly 100 subscribers in a week. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And admittedly, some of that will have come from Pillars of Eternity as well. But there was a monumental interest in Dragon's Dogma, which I posted up last Saturday. So thank you to everybody who stumbled across me because of the Dragon's Dogma video. I was just lucky that I happened to get what looks like an early drop through my letterbox. I think its actual official date of release was the Tuesday, and it came through my letterbox on the Saturday lunchtime when my mail arrived. So it was just one of those where I happened to get the copy really early. So I was quite thankful for it. I immediately thought, hang on, well, I might as well throw up some footage for people that might be interested in getting the game but aren't sure. And sure enough, there was a massive amount of interest. I mean, I think the first video, I've put up 7 videos so far, and the first video has had about 14,000 views, which is just mental. And the only other time that I've had that kind of hit rate is on similar occasions when no one else had posted up footage, where it was Arcania, Gothic Arcania, which is in my Let's Play list if you ever look for that one, and Divinity Original Sin, which was another one which I didn't get either of these games early. It's just people didn't post any footage up from the PS4. I did almost straight away and got massive amounts of hits, and I got lots of people who discovered me on my channel that way, and lovely people who've stuck with me all this time. And anyway, a big thank you to all of those people who have just subbed up. A big thank you to all of those people who continue to watch me, even though I have gone away for reasons that I've now explained on multiple occasions, where I vanish for a little bit and come back. I'm trying to be far more consistent now. I'm trying to be, I'm trying to show my excitement when a new RPG comes this way, people. So with Pillars of Eternity and Dragon's Dogma both kind of appearing back to back almost, it's been a great time for me to get stuck into RPG. RPG is what this channel is all about. Every now and then I post up stuff of other stuff that I might play, but it's usually quite short playthroughs, and all of the long playthroughs that I ever do, or Let's Plays that I ever do, are always RPGs, because that's what the people of this channel seem to love. And I love them for it, because it's my favourite kind of game, people. And for me, there's never enough RPGs on console. I mean, I know that Dragon's Dogma is a remaster, and a nice remaster it is too, but I would love to see some more RPGs hitting this gen, because it's been quite a while now. And yeah, we've had the big guns out. We've had, Witcher 3, and we've had Horizon Zero Dawn, and Skyrim was a remaster, so we've had Fallout 4, but still, I could probably rattle off a few more. Wasteland 2 came out, but that was already a PC one. I did a bit of a Let's Play on that. Arcania was a remaster. So, I know we've had things like maybe Bloodborne, Dark Souls, but for me, they're very different types of RPG. They're painful. That's what they are. I tend to have a go at them. I mean, there is some Bloodborne footage of me playing it on the channel. It's down there somewhere if you look through the lists. the playlists. So yeah, I'd love to see some more of the sort of ilk that we love. And personally, I love RPGs that have got Europe saturated in them. Don't like them. I mean, I love you, American people, but I don't like an RPG to become very American because I feel like it takes away from the authenticity. I've spoken about this before, but it takes away the authenticity of the sort of worlds that RPGs are kind of built in. Well, you know, the worlds of RPGs such as Knights of the Realm and all this kind of stuff, which is very, very British, really. I suppose if you go down the Viking route, you could take different accents, but you want European type accents, really. Something like Horizon Zero Dawn can get away with it because it's a futuristic type of RPG. So, you know, you kind of, you know, that's fine. But I like everything kind of where it makes sense to me, you know what I mean? And for me, there's more authenticity in English voices or Scottish voices or, you know, British voices, Welsh, I'm not going to leave anyone out now, Irish. Don't want to offend anybody. But you know where I'm coming from, people. You know where I'm coming from. However, the topic, or the main topic of this particular vlog. Now, I might record 2 vlogs tonight, or I might do one next week. But I'm going to record 2 vlogs. I'm going to do 2 separate ones, and I'll tell you what the other one is in the other vlog if I do it. So you can just wait and be excited. But this particular vlog is more about the reaction to Dragon's Dogma and 60 frames per second issue that keeps coming up. 60 frames per second. It's become this monster. The phrase 60 frames per second has become a monster. And on this gen of consoles. And I wanted to talk a little bit about it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my feelings on how Dragon's Dogma looks. Now, I'm going to start with the fact that this gen of console, and this isn't just my opinion, this is fact, right? This is absolute fact, and you can look at anyone in the industry, and I tend to look toward Digital Foundry quite heavily because they're very, very good at what they do. They monitor all the games when they come out. They stick them through their software. They check the frame rates, how well they balance, and how well they balance with the sort of image quality that you want, how much they balance with the amount of content that's on screen. And they understand what sort of hardware is in these consoles compared to what's in a PC and the PC version of a game. Now, without any shadow of a doubt, and this has been said throughout the land, these consoles were not built for 60 frames per second. They weren't. They were built for 1080p and 4K for the Pro version and for the Xbox One X that's coming. They were built for graphics. They were not built for the frames per second. So you will not get on this, it's an absolute pipe dream if you believe you're going to get 60 frames per second on a 1080p or a 4K game. You are not going to get it. Not on this sort of game. On an RPG where there's a multitude of things all happening on the screen at the same time, running around all over the place. And it isn't me just making it up, people, alright? You've only got to look at The Witcher 3, Horizon Zero Dawn, Tomb Raider. I know Tomb Raider's an RPG, but it's a good example, and I'll tell you why in a second. You will not get 60 frames per second without a massive depreciation in what you're doing graphically, and that's why Tomb Raider's a good example, so I'll come back to it in a second. But if you look at Horizon Zero Dawn, which is specifically made RPG for the PS4, so they've tuned it specifically for that hardware, and it's been enhanced properly for the PS4 Pro, which has that extra power, and it is never going to reach anywhere near 60 frames per second. It tries to hit a steady 30 frames per second, and it is absolutely gorgeous at doing it. So if those sorts of people can't get 60 frames per second out of a game, you're never going to get it from anybody else. All right? You're winding me up, people. But here's the thing, right? I find it fascinating that people think that if it's not 60 frames per second, the developer's lazy, it's a rubbish game, it's just, you know, it's got to be slandered in some way, it's not worth my time and my effort, I'm not paying out the money for it because it's not 60 frames per second. Well, frankly, if you're not going to buy a game that's not 60 frames per second on this gen of console, you're never going to own a game. Because the only games you'll own will be driving games or football games where they can get away with 60 frames per second because you're not constantly spinning cameras around and all that sort of stuff. So it's fixed camera trajectory. You don't need... They can control how the camera's, turning and what have you. They've got total control almost over those games, so they can get away with 60 frames per second in those. This is why the Xbox One X is punting Forza Horizon as a 60 frames per second 1080p or 4K game. And it's one of the few it ever will be able to do, because Gears won't do it, and Quantum Break definitely isn't doing it, and it's struggling to do... Well, it's struggling to keep a steady pace. The Digital Foundry video I watched on Quantum Break, it was so heavy on screen with what it was doing, it was struggling to do 1080p without tearing, so... They need to find a good balance with the frame rate there, because they're not getting anywhere near. I mean, they're trying to get a steady 30 frames there without it tearing. And that's on the Xbox One X that they've seen the footage from. It's for the upscale. So they're hoping that gets smoothed over for the Xbox One X release. But you will not get, people, you won't get it at 60 frames per second without some sort of massive depreciation in the graphics. And some people they've thrown, what was it? Metal Gear Solid was thrown at me as an example of 60 frames per second. Well, look, Metal Gear Solid, A, it's not an RPG. B, I've played half of that game, and it's in environments with very little moving around. And there's very little on screen at any one given time. At most, you'll have some vehicles and you'll have some people walking up and down in a pattern so that you can do your stealth kills. Okay, fine, you'll get a few explosions on screen, but there isn't a lot happening on screen, people. You're not talking about dense areas of trees moving around, animals moving around, water moving around, umpteen battles happening at the same time. That sort of stuff you will not get at 60 frames per second in this gen of console. You just won't get it. And if you're expecting it from this gen of console, then you're going to be disappointed constantly, because it's not going to happen. And it's nothing to do with how lazy the developers are at all. I mean, I'm not saying that some developers will take more time over a remaster than others. They will. But it doesn't matter how much time they take. You're still not going to get 60 frames per second in an RPG on this gen of console. It's not going to happen. So, well, not without it being very basic on screen. Because if you want something that's visually intensive, then you're not going to get it. And for me, you could argue that because this is a last-gen game, that you would get away with it. But the problem is, they've now upscaled it all to 1080p. I think on the Pro it might be higher than that. And therefore, because of that upscale of image quality, they can't match it. They're not going to get 60 frames per second. So they leave it at a stable 30. And without going to 60 frames per second, I can tell you now, right? And I'll tell you why you're not seeing from my videos the benefits of that game yet, because it's another part of this vlog, people. This game, the Dragon's Dogma I'm talking about, that game plays so much smoother and looks so much crisper on the PS4 Pro, certainly. Haven't played it on a PS4, obviously, but it plays so much smoother on the Pro than it ever did on the PS3. Firstly, it's 1080p. Second, it might be higher than that, but I think it's 1080p. Secondly, the 30 frames per second is constant, and from what I've read, doesn't dip down even in battles. They've got a constant frame rate. That was not the case on the PS3 or the Xbox One. There was dips. It could, when all that action starts happening on screen, things would slow down and judder, and you'd get a little bit of effect when you were playing. If you don't want those things to happen, if they try and push things up frame rate wise, you then end up with that sort of stuff happening again. And it's not because they're lazy, it's not because they don't know what they're doing, it's simply because these particular gen of consoles, they were absolutely adamant they wanted to push 1080p out of the first lot, and now it's 4K out of the second iteration of these consoles. And in order to give us that, at this price, they're not able to give us the processor power that goes behind that to give us the 60 frames per second. It will come in the next gen, without any doubt. Because by the time we move up there, you'll have the extra processor power to be able to do both at once. Sure, why not? Maybe they won't get to 60, maybe they'll find some way of being somewhere in between. But it'll be smoother, and each gen go, fine. But, I mean, the Quantum Break's a good example, because the PC version of that, even on an Uber PC, struggles to hold it steady at 60 frames per second, which is far more powerful than anything we've got on console. And it's because of the amount of content they're trying to put on screen. they're trying to make a film almost on screen. So Tomb Raider was mentioned as an example because in Tomb Raider there's a certain amount of settings on the Pro. You can say I'm interested more in the graphics and set it to the graphics, or you can say I'm more interested in the gameplay, and if you put that one on, you get far smoother panning of the camera. I think that does go. I don't know this for a fact, actually. I should have checked it really before I did the vlog. But I think that then starts trying to run at 60 frames per second. Whether it's consistent or not, I've no idea, but it is smoother. And it's... For me, when you look, right, the minute you do it on the menu in Tomb Raider, when you change that, you immediately, I think where I was at the time, there was like floorboards. No, in fact, in the main menu, it's floorboards because you're in Lara's house in the menu. And you can see the wooded floorboards sort of slatted. And the minute you change to that, it becomes really blurry. Like the floorboards are nowhere near as crisp in their graphics. So there's a massive drop in the quality of graphics you get in order to get 60 frames per second. So the developers, without any doubt, have said, we want a steady 30 frames per second and without loss, and we want either 1080p and 4K. And that is what we're getting on these consoles. And for me, that's fine. And if you play Dragon's Dogma, you'll see that it's beautiful. And the reason it's probably looking a little... I mean, I think my videos are looking okay, actually. But something that I've just realised today, which I'll tell you about once I've had a little sip of this. Cheers, everybody. It's Friday beer time. Thirsty work, this. I would share it, but we haven't come up with that technology yet to pass beer down the broadband. So there might have been a slight schmelting of film there. I took a small intermission just to quickly do something before I tell you about what I noticed today. What I noticed, well, actually it was yesterday, because it was kind of playing on my mind a little bit as to why maybe it was so noticeable to people or why maybe people weren't seeing it as smoothly as I was seeing it on screen. And I've had this with YouTube a few times, and I always thought, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's just the way that they sort stuff as it goes up. But and to be fair, the only time I've ever produced things at 60 frames per second is when I've done live streams, because when I live stream, it goes straight from the Elgato software up. And it's a 60 frames. It's a 60 frames per second capture device that I have at 1080p. So it goes up at 60 frames per second. However, when it captures it, it does the same thing. But if you notice at the beginning end of my videos, I have intros and outros. Now, in order to have those intros and outros as personalized as I got them for each game, I need to add those in a piece of software that I've got, and then I render the whole thing together. So what I've just realized after such a long time of doing it is that it renders it at, I think, 25 frames per second. So I think what you're seeing gameplay-wise is probably slightly less smooth than what I'm seeing gameplay-wise. And when it comes to games like this, and where people are obviously quite obsessed about the fact it's not 60 frames per second anyway, you're not quite seeing the 30 frames per second version anyway. So I investigated it a little bit, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just upload the number 7 video that I put up just straight from what was captured from Elgato instead of rendering it. However, when I went to do that, the file size of it is massive. It's like 10 gig for an hour as opposed to 4 point something gig that it would have been on the normal one. Now, I can upload that. It's not a problem, but it takes a couple of hours, whereas it would normally take it about an hour. So I can do it, and I will do it if it comes to it, to at least give you some of the videos in true gameplay fashion, as it were. And I will, at some point this weekend, try and get a true depiction of what that gameplay's like up. Now, a lot of you have got the game already anyway, so you'll kind of know just how smooth it's running. I mean, it runs beautifully, honestly. I haven't played this game at all and thought, why isn't this 60 frames per second? It is so beautiful at panning around. It is absolutely fantastic. And it wasn't like that on the PS3. So I think it's worth noting mentally that 60 frames per second doesn't have to be there for it to be extremely smooth. And Horizon Zero Dawn and The Witcher 3 are prime examples of it. Nobody's looked at those games and went, they look shit. Because they don't. You know what I mean? They look fantastic, and they pan beautifully. They play beautifully. So, I mean, interestingly, well, here's another example. The Witcher 3 PS4 Pro proper support patch was released, and it's given 4K to the PS4 Pro, and it's getting loads of praise. It looks absolutely amazing, but they have said that when you play it as 4K, you get stutter when you go into a heavy swamp area where there's loads of stuff moving around with water and stuff, and that drop wasn't there on the original version if you just play it as standard. So there is a drop, people. If you want the higher graphics, you're going to have a loss somewhere. I mean, Witcher 3 is a massively heavier game, obviously, than Dragon's Dogma is, because it's much newer and it's much more demanding. But it's the same principle. Like, if you go up in graphics, you need more power from your processor to give you the frames per second. It's just the way it works, and we don't have that power. So, anyway, interestingly, they said, the article I was reading said when they drop it to 1080p, they still get the same issue, which was a bit... so they might mini patch it and sort that out. But so anyway, so the end result of that conversation is the software that I use to render can't render at that level, and it's actually quite out of date now anyway. I've had it quite a number of years. It's been a great piece of software. It's called Sans Serif Movie Plus. I did a video on what I use for YouTube actually at not long ago anyway. I think it was a few years back. In fact, it might be longer than that. I'm not very good at keeping track of time. But I did do a video of how I make my videos vlog-wise and how I do them for game capture and stuff. And Sans Serif Movie Plus was the package I used to smelt everything together. I mean, some of my vlogs have gameplay footage flying over the back of them and moving in and out, all this sort of stuff. So you can be quite funky with it. However, they don't do it anymore. They've decided not to do it in their new range of stuff. So I went looking to see what video editors would do 60 frames per second. And I found a couple which I am going to download the demos of and have a little play this weekend. So, in fact, I'm going to play with a few of them tonight. And if one of them's from Corel, the other one's from... I've forgotten off the top of my head, actually. They're both around the same price, though. They're both, I think they're both, for the Uber Ultimate Pro versions of both of them, I think they're about 80 quid or something, £90 or something like that. So I'm going to have a little play around with them. And if they do my rendering at 60 frames per second, then I'll try and piece together a little bit of Dragon's Dogma as it should be, as it looks when I'm playing it, and post that up. And hopefully that will give anyone who hasn't got the game yet a proper depiction of just how smooth it plays. I mean, I can see it when I watch it from the Elgato capture directly, which is the larger file. It's far smoother on screen than it is when I've rendered it. So there's a notable difference. And I think it'll be worth seeing that without any shadow of a doubt. So I'm looking forward to doing that. New software, new gadgets. People, new gadgets. Oh, for people that watched my my vlog when I showed off my little new geeky bits that I bought, I said I would show you. I didn't take them out of the box, I don't think, at the time. There was the little Yoda. I got these in HMV. There was the little Yoda. And they aren't rubber. They're they're almost sort of a clay material, which was a nice surprise because I thought they were going to be some sort of just little cheap rubbery things. They're only about £15 each. So there was the little Yoda. I haven't seen these anywhere else. Yeah, add to my collection behind me. And there was the Darth Vader. Together we can rule the universe. Also the same material. Very nice. Anyway, I promised I would show those off in a future vlog. But they do fit in rather well behind me for my little geek area there. I've got loads of stuff through in the chill out area in the back. I've got the sort of the what are they called? The diecast. I've got 2 diecast stormtroopers, and I've got loads of little ships and stuff. But I'm waiting to get like a proper unit to put it all in. So a lot of it's still in its boxes and stuff like that. So I've got lots of geeky things flying around that aren't kind of seen on camera. I ideally like to have some sort of geek corner like you see sometimes with all sorts of cool things in them. Well, there you are. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this one. Was there anything else I noted down? I don't think there was. I have little notes beside me, people. Anyway, once again, thank you so much for all the people that have subbed up this week. I'm looking forward to doing more Dragon's Dogma. I'm looking forward to doing more Pillars of Eternity, although that's died down a little bit. It's still getting a good 60-odd hits, for the last one. And for me and my little channel, that's quite a lot of hits per video. I mean, I think at something that isn't naturally sort of I'm showing something off that no one else has, or my videos getting seen when they search before anyone else is. You know, somewhere between 60 and 100 views for a vlog or a Let's Play video or something like that is pretty standard for my channel. But hopefully that will keep growing, people, because of you awesome fine folks. So anyway, it was lovely to see all the new people arriving, and well, may it continue, people, eh? I mean, I didn't expect to be anywhere near this sort of number when I started this channel. I mean, I started the channel, 5 years ago, maybe, something like that, when I decided not to do the gaming website anymore. And I just thought, you know, if I can get maybe 50 people, something like that. I mean, to me, 10 people would have been fine to share my experiences with. So to have gotten this far and have... What I like about the gaming community is that it is a community. You know, like, if you're a general vlogging channel that just does, I bought my boyfriend clothes or I bought my girlfriend clothes or something, you can end up with like just random people. But what I love about the having a gaming channel is that it's people who are genuinely interested in games. So you have a common interest and you have common things to talk about. You have common humour almost when it comes to these sorts of things as well. So it's really nice responding to you guys in the comments. I've never seen so many comments in my life that I've seen from Dragon's Dogma. It's been absolutely amazing. It's been brilliant chatting to you all. So yeah, keep them coming. Keep talking to me. I mean, it's great hearing your experiences of the game as well. So yeah, keep firing comments in whichever video you feel like. And now, I'm going to say, actually, I do apologise if you ever post up a comment and I don't get back to you. It's the first time I've experienced so many comments, and the way that YouTube kind of dishes them out to you isn't particularly great, the way that it orders the comments in your sort of admin area. So the ones that I tend to get back to without any thought process, because I get an email for most that come through, but what I don't get is any sort of indication that someone responded to someone else or that sort of thing. So if I do ever not respond to something or like it or something, it's not because I've ignored it. It's just, it does get really confusing. I try my best to keep up though, so hopefully I've got back to everyone who put little comments up. However, I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to go and enjoy some more of my beverage for this Friday evening. I'm going to go and download these software packages I've been telling you about to see if I can get this rendering sorted out. Now, I will say, if the rendering doesn't work, or I don't download the packages, what I will do is possibly do an hour's worth of live stream at 60 frames per second. Well, set it to 60 frames per second and see what we get when it goes up. Because at least that'll give you the true sort of image that I'm seeing. But one way or the other, I will get... Or I'll post up a section of... I might maybe do a slightly smaller recording of the direct Elgato capture, so it wouldn't have the intro and outro of my video on it, but at least I'll put it up as it is when I capture it at set at 60 frames per second. So one way or the other, I shall sort something out for you all. It has been, as always, an honour and a privilege serving for you in this vlog, people, and I shall see you all next time. Take it easy. Bye.